everyone, welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'll be talking about 5 of the best contemporary novels that I've ever read. These are just books that I cannot get enough of, or I cannot stop recommending to literally every person that I ever meet. And before we start that, here's my introduction. My name is Rupkata Bhattacharjee and you're watching my channel. If you like this video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And with that out of the way, let's dig right in. So the first book on this list is Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers. Honey Girl follows Grace Potter, who has just completed her PhD in astrology, and after doing so, she has completely lost direction. The job that her professor had guaranteed would be hers had declined her, and now Grace just doesn't know what to do. And on top of all that, she also got married to a stranger drunk in Vegas, and that's the least of her problem because her wife is literally amazing. Over the months, she connects with her wife, this complete stranger, Yuki Yamamoto, through social media and her wife's radio show, and then decides to spend her summer in Portland, spending time and connecting with Yuki and her flatmates. This book is a self-realization journey. Grace's start from a lost young woman, an astute, brilliant student, to a young adult with a job and what she wants to do, a settled life, is absolutely brilliant. I love the story, I love the characters, and I'll just talk more about it. So Grace, when she starts, she is this perfectionist. Her whole life, she has known nothing to be perfect. Her father is a military man, and her mother is a white woman who is one of the people, I don't know how to explain her mother. Her mother runs an orange farm, and Grace grew up there for some time, and then the rest of her life she spent with her father, who is a black man who served in the military and is referred to as Colonel Porter throughout the book. So Colonel has always wanted Grace to be the best of the best. He wanted Grace to study medicine, and when Grace refused, he wanted her to be the best in the field of astrology. And Grace has been bent over back trying to fulfill his expectations, and finally she's had enough. Now, after getting married to this stranger, Yuki, Grace lies to her father that she is going to spend her summer in Portland, that she has been offered research work to get her father off her back about getting a job. And Grace spends this summer trying to not only find herself, connect with her wife, but also to get a new perspective on life, because right now, everything that is happening, she feels that it's useless. Grace's character is extremely well developed. She is relatable. Just don't mind my dogs barking in the background. I guess they're shouting at some bird or something. So Grace is a very well developed character. She is fleshed out. She is relatable. And overall, props to the author for writing such an amazing protagonist. Now, Grace Potter, this young woman who has done so brilliantly her entire life, she has worked so hard to be the best. And suddenly, after graduating, she realizes that even though she does better, like 100% better than anyone else in her field, she will always get questioned on the basis of her skin color. And Grace, to put it frankly, is just done with it. Grace's character arc, which goes from her realizing that she doesn't always have to be the best, that sometimes being the best means putting yourself first and not someone else's expectations of you, is absolutely amazing. Grace's therapy, she goes to therapy, she reconnects with her father, tries to communicate with him and work out everything that has come between the bond of both of them. It's something that I really adored. I loved how Grace really stood up for herself, and how Grace was always certain about what she wanted, and how she learned to compromise. Because at first, Grace was not at all willing to compromise. She always wanted to do what she thought would be the best for her, even though it wasn't the best for her mental health or physical well-being. And then towards the end of this book, Grace realized that perhaps the best is only achieved when you take care of yourself and when you learn how to compromise. And her whole character arc was absolutely brilliant, and I loved how bittersweet it was. It wasn't like Grace got everything that she wanted instantly. She waited for it, she worked for it, she got help from a therapist for it. I loved how the aspect of mental health was approached by the author, and it was one of the most wonderful aspects of this book. Next up, the side characters. We had a bunch of them. It was a huge cast of characters. Grace's friend, Yuki Yamamoto, I have already mentioned who she was. Yuki's friends, Grace's parents, and all the people that have their lives intertwined with her. And all these characters, even though they played a role in Grace's story, they had a part in of their lives mixed into. It was very interesting to read about such a diverse cast of characters and how they were functioning and how what their stories meant and why they were in Grace's life from the beginning. It was quite visible what the dynamics were between all the characters, and they just went together like bread with butter. I don't know if that is the metaphor. If it is not, then well, who cares? I just invented a metaphor for myself. Yuki Yamamoto's character is beautiful too. I really loved Yuki's character. She is such a philosophical person. The way she helps Grace gain a new perspective of life, the way she lives her own life, how she is unapologetically doing her own thing despite of what others think of her, is very inspiring. And personally, I think Honey Girl is a book that literally everyone needs to read this year. I don't know why it is not that popular yet. I mean, books like Cassandra Clare's Shadowhunters series, not that I'm calling them bad, I mean I am, but Honey Girl deserves to be as popular as those books are. I rated it 4.5 stars. I took off 0.5 stars because there was this clear repetition of words like sea, sweet, sea salt and sun and honey. These words, these certain metaphors were used again and again and again, like honey sprinkled or anything that had the word honey in it. I felt like it got a bit tedious to read these words over and over again. And overall, if you can look past the extreme flowery or purple prose that is present in this book and the repetition of words, this is a book worth reading. Let's move on to the next book. The next book that I recommend is Loveless by Elise Oseman. Loveless by Elise Oseman is a new perspective on the YA genre itself. It focuses more on platonic relationships that is lacking in a lot of contemporary YA books than on love relationships. Our main character, Georgia, has never had a crush in her entire life. And honestly, she doesn't think anything's wrong with that. But apparently other people do. Other people have crushes, other people want to date, but Georgia doesn't want to do any of that. Georgia's best friends, Pip and Jason. Now, Pip and Jason have also dated other people, and they too think that Georgia's apparent lack of attraction to anyone is weird. And so Georgia decides to get out there, experiment before she moves to college, and overall she ends up discovering a lot about herself. Loveless tackles with aromanticism and asexuality in a very beautiful way. Georgia's character arc, which goes from someone very confused about the love aspect of life to realizing that giving your friendships the love that you would give to a romantic relationship is the best part of life. And honestly, I adored this book with every bone in my body. Loveless by Elise Oseman has the same magic that every book by them does. Elise Oseman's books have this differentness about them, a uniqueness. They are not always very well written, but Elise Oseman has a way with words which make them some of the most beautiful works of literature to ever exist. Loveless has that same magic in it. It has relatable characters, especially since Georgia and her friends are all supposed to be members of this generation. Elise Oseman has not forced them to behave like adults think teenagers or anyone in the college age do. Elise Oseman has let them be raw, not generic, and people with feelings. All of them are well fleshed out. All of them, there's a cockroach on my leg. All of them are well fleshed out. All of them have their definite character arcs, and it's just an overall a very diverse cast of characters that I adore. If you are going to read Loveless by Elise Oseman, I also suggest checking out the graphic novel series Heartstopper, as well as Radio Silence and all the books that Elise Oseman has written, because all of these books are definitely worth reading. Elise Oseman does not have a very special writing style. It's simple, it's not very wordy, so if you are a beginner reader who does not have the attention span to go through a lot of prose and metaphors and similes. Elise Oseman's works are something that you should definitely check out. Oseman also has this kind of uniqueness to their setting, the way they always go through this intersectionality thing of where some places are gray areas between race and sexuality and all those things mixed up, the gray areas between platonic relationships and romantic relationships, and all in all, Loveless by Elise Oseman is an amazing book and you should read it. I mean, trust me when I say this book will probably make you cry by the end of it, and not tears of sadness but probably tears of happiness. Elise Oseman's Loveless is one book worth checking out. I think I'm saying that for all the books that I'm talking about in this list. So the next what I have is, I'm grabbing the book right now, One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. One Last Stop is also a 2021 new release like Honey Girl, and One Last Stop is practically amazing. Now I'll talk about this book in depth too. I mean, this video is going to be long, yeah. So One Last Stop follows August, 23-year-old August, who has just moved to New York, and she takes the subway or the queue to her work every day. And on the queue, she meets this amazing, beautiful woman called Jane Sue, who looks like she is a punk enthusiast from the 70s. And guess what? There's a plot twist. Jane Sue is actually a punk enthusiast from the 70s who has been literally displaced through time and is stuck on the subway forever. And August, stubborn August, is willing to do whatever it takes to get Jane back to her time. I won't say anything more about this book because I'm at the risk at spoiling it, so I'll just keep it and talk about why this book is so good. Casey McQuiston has definitely done a lot of research while writing this. They have gone through New York's history, American history, and all the places, all the protests, riots that have taken place in New Orleans, New York, and all the states in America, all the cities in America over the years. They have also done a very in-depth history of the 70s and the 60s, and Jane's backstory is written wonderfully that I felt like Jane was actually a real person in front of me rather than just a book character. August's backstory is also very unique. I did not find it realistic per se, but it's a book with time travelers, so realism is not something that you should look for in One Last Stop. August's character arc, how she develops into a different person at the end of this book, is pleasing to read about, and the relation with her mother, who is engrossed in trying to solve the mystery of her missing brother, is also amazing because August has gone through her entire life, been put second for a missing person, her missing uncle, who her mother is desperate to find. And towards the end of this book, August talks with her mother, tries to work out all the problems that they have had for her mother's obsession with the missing case, and everything, that all the plot points are solved by the end of this book. And I am so glad that this is standalone and an amazing novel that is definitely worth reading. And I am saying that for every book on this list because most of the book, all the 5 of these books that I have accumulated are some of my personal favorites, and I feel like everyone who is looking to read something good, something contemporary without the fantasy elements or gore that fantasy books have, this is definitely the book that one should read. Next book on this list is I Wish You All the Best by Mason Deaver, which follows Ben DeBacker, who has been recently kicked out from their home. Now, Ben DeBacker's, I won't go a bit in detail of this book synopsis because this video is already too long, so I'm just going to list out the pros and cons and why this is a book worth reading. The pros. This book is very, very, very bittersweet and relatable. Ben DeBacker's journey, their relationship with their parents, and their parents' reaction to them is something that I really loved reading about. Mason Deaver has also a very good writing style, which is cumulatively both flowery and not very wordy. So if you're a beginner reader who is looking for something simple to read, I Wish You All the Best is really simple, does not go into detail about characters' looks and the setting, etc., etc. It's at its heart, it's a basic contemporary novel. The characters of this book are all well fleshed out. They have each their own motives, their backstory. I really loved Ben DeBacker's dynamic with their sister, who had abandoned them, or not abandoned them per se, but left their house a few years before Ben was kicked out, and they started connecting again after Ben's kicked out as well. And the relationship that they form after not seeing each other for all these years, the sibling bond that had been weakened over all the years, is reawakened, and they both get to know each other a lot more. The author also talks about anxiety and mental health in this book, and I felt that this book was very beautifully written. The way the author approached mental health as a whole aspect and how Ben worked out their feelings with their therapist was also beautiful. And the cons of this book are literally none, so go read it. Last but not the least, the book that I have is Hani and Ishu's Guide to Fake Dating by Adiba Jagirdar, or Jagirdar. I don't really know how to pronounce that, but Jagirdar is how we pronounce it in West Bengal, so I'm going to stick with it. So, Hani and Ishu's Guide to Fake Dating is a dual POV book following both the titular characters' perspectives, Hani and Ishu, who, as the title suggests, have decided to fake date each other. Hani because she wants to prove to her friends that she is really bi, and Ishu because Ishu believes that dating Hani, who is liked by everyone in this school, will help her achieve becoming the head girl of her school, just to impress her parents and to prove that she is different from her sister. Now, this book was extremely relatable to me as a person. It might not be to you, but Hani and Ishu's Guide to Fake Dating has both Bengali characters, and as Bengali myself, I related to every perspective, everything that happened in this book. Ishu's family drama, the way her parents react to her sister dropping out of medical school, this competitive environment that had been created between Hani and her sister, Ishu and her sister, and how Ishu wanted to strive to be better than her sister, is something that I have actually seen in reality, seen and happened to a lot of my friends, and how they are always competing with their siblings as well. And I won't say that the author has exaggerated in any aspect. Hani and Ishu's Guide to Fake Dating is raw. It's all the feelings that it has not been exaggerated. There is no amount of sugarcoating. It is unapologetically Bengali, it is unapologetically brown, and unapologetically sapphic. It has a lot of use of tropes that have like grumpy, sunshine, and fake dating, and all the other tropes that you have seen in contemporary novels before. So if you are looking for something that's really unique and does not use tropes that are trendy, this one is not for you. But if you're just looking to read a good contemporary novel, I beg you to read Hani and Ishu's Guide to Fake Dating. Not only because books by authors of color are not getting the hype that they deserve, that books by white authors are getting, but also because this book is wonderful. I also loved how the author handles or tackles the topic of toxic friendships, how breakups in friendships hurt as much as they do in romantic relationships, and Hani's character arc from being this person who never stood up for herself, this person who never corrected others, never thought about her own feelings, how selfless she was, to realizing that being a good person is not synonymous for not standing up for oneself or not correcting others when they are wrong. Ishu's character arc from being a self-centered person, this competitive nature that had been ingrained into herself from a young age, to working out her feelings that sometimes it does not matter if you are better than your sibling. What matters is that you have a concrete bond with them. And the cockroach is really threatening me, and I'm afraid. I hate cockroaches. Okay. So Hani and Ishu's Guide to Fake Dating, also like all the other books on this list, has a very simple writing style. It's easy to understand, wonderful for beginner readers. very nice characters, and it's a 5-star read too. All of these books on this list are books that I read this year and absolutely loved, and there's no misunderstanding when I say these were 5 of the best contemporary novels that I have read this year. So that was it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you watched this long video till the end, you are my favorite person on this planet. If you like this video, like I said in the beginning, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. You know the drill. I won't elaborate more. So thank you for watching. Be safe during this pandemic and goodbye.